we spoke about personal information, and I think that's very topical at the moment in a number of countries. Some countries it's old news, and other countries it's up and coming news. Nicoline, are there things that we should be concerned about in terms of personal information and blockchain?
Well, I think if we're talking about some of the countries that are late adopters, it's probably South Africa. POPI, as we call it by acronym, only became effective in its full force a couple of months ago. So it's still being tested. But the point is that all of us, regardless of the technologies we use, are responsible for the data, the personal information in our custody. So if we are collecting supplier data or recruitment data or client data, it doesn't really matter where it comes from. If it's not your own information, you are bound to comply. So if we look at the technology in itself, I think we all need to have a very clear understanding of the type of network we are getting involved in. Is it public? Is it private? And what are the governance provisions relating to it? In other words, what are the T's and C's if you're using an existing blockchain, so that you can get a clear understanding as to what will be visible to everyone else, and to what degree you may want to make the people who will be sharing their information with you aware of how this is going to work. So in itself, the blockchain is very secure. You've said that. I agree with that. From a breach point of view, there are many more points that are unbreachable in comparison to other technologies. Nothing is unbreakable in my experience of life, but it's the best we have right now. And the other point is really to not only understand, but also to know that it's a record that is irrefutable. No one can go and botch it afterwards. We can't have a he said, she said. And in that way, from a human point of view, I think it's got a lot of power in building good relationships, in letting honesty and credibility prevail, because we can't change our minds as humans often do. So there's where I think the real ethical value will lie, but we need to go into this with open eyes.
Yes, absolutely.
We've got
blockchain.
Annalisa's, I'm sorry, Vincent, Annalisa has her hand up.
Okay. Shall we take the question now? No?
No, she says no. No, I thought it was just pertaining to the statement. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so blockchain offers that security, and I think we need to add some other aspects of blockchain in and point out there's public blockchain, there's private blockchain, and there's hybrid. So it is possible. Blockchain has transparency, and so by putting my data on blockchain, I am potentially allowing it to be seen. But you could also use private blockchain if it is really that confidential. And the other thing to consider, aside from those types of blockchain, is that as blockchain is developing, it's using its capabilities to empower us. So if you look at some governments that are coming up with EIDs or digital IDs using blockchain technology, I can use that ID selectively. So I can choose to share everything about my identity, my skills, my experience, my qualifications, obviously my ID number with somebody, or I could choose I'm only sharing my ID number, or I'm only sharing my date of birth, because that is all that is necessary for this transaction. So it empowers you to choose what information you're sharing, and also you can even put a time limit on it if we start incorporating aspects of smart contracts and so on into blockchain. These things need to happen. Some of them are happening and are possible, but that is the way that it's going. It's giving you the power as an individual to say, this is what I'll share, and I'll share it for so long. Yeah. So Thank you. Nicoline, Michelle, anything you want to add there, or should we move on?
And I think just also superimpose those elements into your business. Doesn't it make it much more transparent and controllable?
Yes, if I could add on to what Michelle's saying, imagine a world where you have access to irrefutable, reliable data as to, and not to go looking for where this portion of it is and where that portion of it is. And the bigger that our business has become, the more the administrative burden of data sorting and keeping it in order and making sure it's reliable becomes a real issue for us. I also wanted to add a little comment on smart contracts. Us in the law space, we are still debating whether or not it constitutes a contract because it's not expressed in language or in words. It's based on computer language or programming code. And there seems to be consensus about one thing, to say that as long as the code is representative of the intention of the parties, then we've got a valid contract. So again, it's not a simple yes or no answer. In my view, I think if we can say that there was a true expression of what the parties wanted to achieve from both sides, then at its very core, we've got a contract. But again, the jury's still out on that one.
So tongue-in-cheek question there, Nicoline, is at some point in time, I think lawyers had to learn a bit of Latin. So you're going to have to learn a bit of code now.
If you look at any of the authors, particularly those that are focusing on what the legal practice or profession is going to look like in not even 10 years' time, then absolutely we are lobbying for our young lawyers to actually seriously consider learning about programming as part of their training. I think the technological focus is going to be much more intense going forward. And it's a matter of time, in my mind, before we settle the debate on whether or not a smart contract is that. And whether it is, if we are able to express ourselves as humans in computer language, as well as we do it in any other language that exists on the globe.